right. Being that we do have a quorum and we have an official meeting called, I will call the meeting of the Conservation Commission for May 5th open. And I will entertain a motion to approve our minutes from April 21st.
Mo will make the motion.
Oh, I got Ryan.
And Ryan, will you second? All right, all those in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
First, on our
Sorry.
hearing, we have the continued public hearing for Scotland and Maple Street, 40B. We have a presentation, John.
Yes, we do. I'm going to unmute Greg Driscoll.
Evening, everyone. So Greg Driscoll of Jacobs Driscoll Engineering, here representing Bridger Hashram for Cochester Developers. Done quite a bit of work since the last meeting. The commission has hired the 53G consultant. They provided comments. We responded to those comments. Went out, did some more field work for the comments, updated the calculations and plans per all their suggestions and comments. And with the time that we've had, we were able to work through everything, and I believe they are satisfied. So that's the quick overview. I think everybody has copies of the comment letter as well as our responses. So I could go through it all, but that might take a little while. And if there's anything in particular any of the board members want me to address.
Do you want me to make the documents available so that you can discuss them?
I can share my screen if you like with the plans. I have.
Yes.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Show the main plan, latest one.
Oh, it looks like screen sharing is disabled, fortunately.
Okay, hold on for a second. How's that?
Okay. Okay, you should see the sheet 3 of the set right now.
Yep.
Yep.
So a few of the things that we had done was perform some soil testing along this area, back behind these houses on Scotland Street, actually behind all the houses on Scotland Street, because we did the other end as well, through here, and then also through here. So we got groundwater information on that, which confirmed and helped us revise the swales that go along the back of between the proposed homes and the existing homes, which is going to bring water into this basin over here. That'll be a wet basin. So that's all designed per stormwater management, and everything checks out. This basin over here is also going to be a wet basin. So that'll provide treatment to the stormwater before it leaves the site, and also attenuate the flow. This basin out here is one that we introduced into the design to hit the groundwater infiltration requirement of stormwater management. Just before I move on, this area right in here there's a driveway that goes all the way around, and right in here will be the septic system for this portion of the property, for the project. This is the rest of that rear basin. And then moving along, this right here is, we don't really need to hold back and attenuate the flow for this system right here, this short street right here, but we are treating it as it goes all the way through here before it gets to the wetlands. So we meet the treatment requirements there. And back here at the southernmost portion of the property is another wet basin that takes this portion of the project, a portion of the improvements to Maple Street. Back here, the back of these lots on Scotland Street and the back of the proposed lots will go into this swale, into that basin, and then it goes out this way towards the wetland. So that's kind of the overview of how the stormwater is working. These areas you see in the red shades are floodplain areas that will be filled. Areas in the blue shades are compensatory storage to replace the flood storage loss, and the turquoise, these areas as well. Over here is where we're proposing our wetland replication. And that is required because of the impacts that we're having over here for the water line, to loop the water line into the property. So that's a general overview. I know there were some concerns that Mr. Delano had regarding the piping system, and that he wanted that to be looked at and reviewed with the rational method calculations. We provided those. Those were reviewed and commented on. We revised as well, and the peer review engineer is okay with the latest iteration of all that. And kind of the overview of what the changes were. If there's anything else engineering comment wise you wanted me to touch on, John?
I think you pretty well covered most of the points that were raised by the consultant. So do you have anything else that you want to present at this point, or you want to hold off and wait for some questions?
Hold off for some questions. I mean, in general, I would like to say this, that the, pop this up real quick. I just passed it. This is the stormwater report, and what it really comes down to is these two tables right here. And you can see from the 2-year storm, 10-year storm, 125 and 100-year storms, the peak rates of flow coming out of this project are reduced quite a bit. And we're also reducing the volume of stormwater that come off the site. That'll help with the flooding and all those other types of issues that I know are known to be an issue with this part of town. So I think that's about it.
All right, it's all yours, Tim.
Before I open it up for other questions, the compensatory storage area that's proposed for the replacement of having to go into the floodplain, that's all within the same flooded area, John? Or
Yes, it appears to be. And I don't know if you can see my cursor, Greg?
No.
No, okay. On the plan that you're sharing right at the moment, the turquoise areas,
Yep, here.
they don't appear to have any proposed grading changes. So how has that become a compensatory storage area?
Okay, that was a comment that we did receive from the review engineer. This is what I'm calling the exhibit plan. We're hoping to catch any of these types of comments on a final plan set as a condition of approval if the commission accepts that request. So what we're showing here is a grade line right here at 62.3. That is the flood elevation. So that's, and we're showing call outs for, you know, the work to be done. Grade this area down to elevation 62.3. Same in here. And this is a 62.3 contour just to connect it, because this right here is the floodplain line, 62.3 elevation. That blue dash line that continues.
Yep.
So we grade that back to this area, that back to that area, and other various places on the site that will provide the storage. We're getting more storage through here. It's a darker color. The way that we're presenting that is the 62 elevation is coming back from this portion and being graded and dug out back to here. And then there's a little bit more 62.3 volume right behind it.
Okay, any of the other commissioners have any questions?
This is Mo. I have a couple of questions. One, just from a visual perspective, if I'm standing in the backyard of these abutters and I'm looking at this project, I had a little difficulty trying to determine what the average elevation change is between their backyards and the homes. It didn't look like much. Was that clear?
Yeah, of the actual grading. Yeah. So the houses are coming up, the proposed houses are coming up a bit because we want to keep the basements above the groundwater. So right here we have an elevation 71, and this is coming up to 74.5, so it's about 3 feet. Right there. This is a 72 contour here, and it's coming up to 76. So it does have to come up a bit on through here in order to keep the proposed houses above groundwater.
Okay. My next question, of course, and go ahead. Were you finished?
Yeah, I was finished. So.
If you don't mind, Mo, could I just have him expand a little bit up on your question?
Sure.
Greg, go back to that close-up of those houses that you just showed. All right, so by my scaling, these dwelling units that are indicated by the number 10 are 20 feet away from the back lot line, and everything behind the house is part of the swale. So there's really no backyard for these people at all. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the swale is a drainage easement, so it can't be altered.
Yep.
Is that correct? All right. And then the swales in between those dwelling units that have the number 10 designation, that's a drainage easement as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, right here. That was a request from the review engineer. Yeah.
All right, and along that swale is where I witnessed the perk tests or test pits, let's say, to determine where the water tables were. And for the most part, the bottom of the swale is either at the water table or just a little bit above, I'm sorry. And that means that according to the drawing, the water from the backyards will go of the Scotland Street abutters will go into the swale, and the roofs and runoff from the dwelling units designated as number 10s will go into that swale as well without running onto the abutters property in this section here.
Yep.
That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, so I also wanted to expand upon what Mo had asked. So if you were standing in the backyard of number 68, I'm sorry, 88 Scotland Street.
Okay.
The existing backyard is, looks like it's a 72 contour.
Yep.
And the top of the foundation's gonna be 75.5.
Yep.
So that's 3.5 feet above the grade, and then the house will sit on top of that. And is it a 1-story or a 2-story dwelling?
I'm pretty sure we know that, but I'm pretty sure it's a 2-story. Oh, 1-story? Okay.
Is that a duplex?
Yes.
Okay. If you would slide further north and do the same thing on that property. Yeah, for the abutters there, is it, you know,
Oh,
take
yeah.
a look at, yeah, take a look at the swale depth and the average elevation, that type of thing.
All right, so we have a 66 through here, and it's getting raised up. It's pretty close through here, but then it goes up a little bit towards the back of these units. So we're, you know, again, keeping these units higher above groundwater, the basements. This is probably the 67 contour through here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it connects in right there. So across the swale, across here is pretty close, pretty level. It looks like the top of the bench is about 67, 67 and a half,
Mhm.
67.6 actually. So it's pretty flat through here, and then you'll see these houses further out.
And will the backyards be sloping to the swale?
Yeah, these backyards currently naturally slope going pretty much in this direction. So we'll hit that, we'll pick up the water from their properties as it comes onto ours and direct it. From here down, we're
Yeah.
directing it around our basin because we can't get it into the basin. So
All right.
directs around and into the resource area through here.
And my last question is, and I mean, just for the public, is that the 53G engineer that we hired is an independent engineer to review these plans, and he concurred with your calculations. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, that's all I had.
Do you want me to ask my questions?
Yep, I was gonna say, John, what have you got?
All right. I just want to see if we have any new people that I haven't let come in yet, and it doesn't seem as if anybody else wants to come in, so I think we're still good. Benjamin Smith, are you there? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I am.
Benjamin Smith.
Yes, I am. What's up?
Would you be able to, I forgot to check the record button, so would you be able to email that me right away so I could do the minutes?
Yes. Once it's done, I can send it to you.
Great, thank you. Do you want me to mute you or keep
Yeah,
you
that's
on
fine.
mute?
You can mute me.
Okay. All right, so the questions I have. On Maple Street, some of the abutters have asked about the alignment of the road and the width of the road.
Yes, they did.
So can you explain what is happening with a typical cross-section anywhere along that first part of Maple Street?
Sure. Yeah, I believe it was Mrs. Pope who lives at 140.
Yes.
Yeah, that had asked us to narrow this road down on this side of the street. So that's why this is 22 feet wide right here, as opposed to we have 24, I believe, for the rest of the areas. So we took 2 feet of pavement away from their side of the road.
What's occurring on the right-hand side of the road?
Right through here, we have a sidewalk being installed. And We are putting in a section of pervious pavement right through here. I don't know if it's not showing up, but
From the high point of 69.15,
down to here.
and the reason for that.
And that's the call out right here. Install pervious pavement section from these two stations, from 0 to 120 feet in. So the purpose of the pervious pavement is so that all the runoff that hits from the high point heading out to where it connects into Scotland Street, it'll be absorbed into the pavement, into the ground, picked up by this perforated under drainage, and into the drainage system, and into this pond. So that's going to stop the neighbors' concern about water getting onto 152 Scotland Street. And we've also are showing a berm curb, Cape Cod berm right along Scotland Street, along the frontage of their property up to their driveway, which will further keep any water that comes along Scotland Street to keep going, not pool up on their property right in this area.
Okay, and you have a berm on the other side of the road as well to keep.
Right through here, and it's pretty much ties in right at the radius point.
All right, and so because the Conservation Commission owns the land to the east of this project, the Maple Street is ancient public way on record, but I think we would definitely want to make sure that we clarify any and all claims against the use of that for the general public to go in onto the conservation land. We're going to need to have a access easement and a right to travel over Maple Street to the boundary line of the conservation land, which is town land. Hopefully your client won't see any issue with that, but that's something I think is important to make sure we put to sleep any legal question that could come up based on the fact that it could be an ancient road that's been prohibited from being used over a period of time, so the loss of access or whatever legal ramifications, we want to make sure that's put to bed right away.
I think Bishop.
Okay. Oh, how do I take care of that? Let me find them. Go ahead, Bishop.
Okay, we don't have any legal right to give easement on something we do not own, nor do we have the rights for. You know, we don't own anything in that roadway, so we can't give you what we don't own. So I'm not sure exactly what it is. What is the point? You know, of concern here.
All right, it's a concern, and we'll be able to try to address it by getting a clarification of that in some way. So if in fact there is no concern, then we don't have to worry about it, but we're going to have to get some clarification on that in some way.
The roadway is town-owned, publicly owned. We do not have any ownership to it. As a matter of fact, as part of the approvals, we had to grant more property to width to the road, and we did that. So we don't own it to give you rights to something we don't have rights to grant anyways.
Well, so I noticed along the right-hand side of the road, you have a strip of land that you call a private layout.
Exactly. That's what we're leading over to widen the way. Right, Greg?
Yep.
Yeah, the ZBA, the zoning board of appeals requested that we give property to the town to widen that road, and that's what you're seeing.
All right, so we can at least explore that and get a little bit more clarification on it.
Sure.
Enough for now, Bisher, or should I keep you unmuted?
It's up to you. I'm fine being muted.
Okay. All right, we'll leave you unmuted.
Okay.
So if any of the abutters, after I get done asking the questions and the chairman turns it over to the abutters, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you can ask your questions. On the plans, you had a security gate detail. Where is that located? I couldn't find the actual placement on the plans.
Not too far.
Yeah, you just went by it on the detail.
Okay.
Perhaps the next sheet. There it is, up at the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure where that's supposed to be on the plan set.
So that's something that we need to look into.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I know there's a path over here. I don't know if that was where we're supposed to put it. But yeah, it's certainly not meant to close off Maple Street if that's any of the concern. Oh, I know what it is. This access road right here. This
Yeah.
paved access road. I think it was meant for that. Now, Bishop, is that something we want to keep gated off, or is that going to be free flow access?
That was initially requested. I think we're leaving it up to the fire department because the fire department requested it, so they have access, another access from Scotland Street. So we'll leave it up to the fire department.
Okay, so that'll be determined later.
Right.
Yeah. And
All right. Did you do? So that's the general area you think it'll be.
Yeah.
Definitely in here, yeah, and connecting between the two cul-de-sacs.
All right. Next is, did you provide a profile and cross-section of the access road to the septic mound on the very southerly portion of the project?
If we don't, we can definitely add that.
All right. And while we're talking about that area, could you go to the plans that show that crossing?
Sure. This one?
That's it. All right. So the question I have is the section of the access road going up onto the proposed graded area of the septic system is to a 1-to-3 slope. And if someone needs to get in there with a vehicle to do any inspections or maintenance of that area, those grades would have to change to be something of a little bit easier access grade for getting up there in all types of weather, whether it's icy, snowy, whatever it might be. The inspections or maintenance or repairs that may have to be done could happen at any time of the year, so we have to look at the worst case scenario. In addition, the section where you're crossing that you have as crosshatched,
yep,
that's in the floodplain. So if we had tremendous storms, or a number of storms in a row that brought the flood elevation up to where people in the area know it comes on an annual basis, that road would be flooded. And it's my opinion that there should be a raised section in there to keep from having to drive through floodwaters in case you have to access it. So that would require raising the grade and also putting in some type of culvert system to allow equal flow underneath the raised section.
Okay, I mean, they could try to access it with the, construction equipment.
John,
Sure.
may I speak, John?
Sure.
Yeah. This is just a leaching area. This is no pumping. There's no tanks. There is no, so any maintenance or failures, or it's going to happen over a few years, and any repairs are going to be pondered and contemplated over a few years. So even if I'm sure, even if any maintenance needed, it can be shifted a couple of weeks or a month either way until the flooding subsides. So we don't like I said, this is not like a tank or a pumping chamber or anything. It's just a leaching area. So I don't think there's going to be any need, like, for, if there's any maintenance or repairs can be delayed until either snow is gone or the flooding is gone.
So if the pipe breaks and people have to wait for a week or two for the floodwaters to subside, and in the meantime, the sewage is flowing out onto the ground into this sensitive area, we are expecting people to wait to go out and make the repair. Or if the sale of some of the units is predicated on having the system inspected because it's due for an inspection on shared systems like this, the people are going to have to wait for their closing because nobody can get out there to inspect it. So we can discuss this more, but that's one of the issues that I think still remains to be talked about and needs to be on the table. So the grading in the replication area for the area that you're filling in this wetland, or that you're digging in this wetland, I didn't see any grading, and I asked the same question about the compensatory storage, so it may be there and I just didn't spot it. So can you clarify that, Greg, on the replication plan on the north side of the project?
Sure. Yeah, I believe Goddard put together a replication plan for that. If you don't have it, or let me know, and I'll make sure that we get the replication plan for the wetland replication over to you. But yeah, that'll all be described in that. And yeah, we can add some grades back in here, pull that grade back like it should be, and reference the replication requirements.
Okay. Sorry about that. The construction of the turtle nesting area is not shown on these plans, and we haven't given permission to put the turtle nesting area in. And I know it's been reviewed and talked about by the MESA program, Natural Heritage, but we need to see where that's going to go. So can you show us in general where that is on these plans? I know it's probably off the sheet, but I just want to give the commission members an idea of how far away from the construction site that is and why it should be part of this.
Okay. I can't pop up the wetland replication report real quick. I just found it.
You want to go to that first and then talk about the turtles?
Sure. Did you receive this, John? If you don't, I apologize.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, did you receive it previously?
Pretty sure I've seen it, yes.
Okay. All right, so this is their report, their plan on how to do this work.
Right.
If you like, we can add more grading in there to kind of show that further, and maybe a reference for the contractor to, make sure he has a copy of this report and is following all these instructions.
Yes, we're going to make sure that the contractor has it in a manner now that we've been asking, which includes being on the plan set rather than being a separate document. But
Okay.
That's a good point, that the contractor needs to be able to install it. And if he doesn't have all of the information, like the grades to how much to take out of the upland to make it a wetland, then there's no way for me to inspect it and hold the contractor accountable for it. So that's why it needs to be on there.
Okay.
All right, so let's go to the Swale area again, near Maple Street, or where Maple Street is.
Actually, I think we skipped over the turtle.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Thanks for reminding me.
Sure. Let's see if I have the turtle plan. Port. That was also another document, report document.
While you're looking for it, one of the reasons why we're recommending that these things be part of a plan set is that we've been finding out that the contractors don't have all the documents that were submitted to the commission. And even if part of the contract says that they are responsible for it, which a lot of times the notes in the construction portion, notes portion of your plan set puts that burden on them, we find that they have no clue that they even had it until it's too late or it's way beyond the time where they should have put it in, and we're asking why it isn't in. And so if it's on the plan set, we find that they make sure they get it done.
Fair enough.
Well, I'll see if I can put my hands on that.
Well, if you can just show with your cursor that general area where it's going to be, that's good enough for me to just show that
Yeah.
part of the permission to build this project includes the construction of turtle nesting site, and it's on conservation land, which was sold to the conservation, given to the conservation, sold to the conservation, however it was done. With that in mind, but we need to be able to have some, grant some permission as part of the wetland regulations to have it constructed. And so there you are. So if you can show the direction towards Scotland Street and the direction towards, oh, you've got the locus map, yep.
Yeah, so Scotland, Route 24, Scotland Street right here. Maple is where these lines converge. So
to the left of that photo is towards Scotland Street.
Yep, going that way. This is north. Same orientation of north as this map.
Yeah.
And on this overall plan, we're talking this area in here.
Yep. Okay, that's good. So now if you can go to the grading plans at the Maple Street section of the project.
Right through here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So can you give me an idea where the drainage water for the house opposite, on the opposite side of 140 will run? Not towards the street, but onto the abutting properties.
These two properties?
Yes, that one there.
Yep, so the front's gonna go towards the street and get into the system, and the rear is meant to get back into this swale back in here.
And everything on the east westerly side of the house is going towards the Mcgrath property.
It appears so, yeah. We can maybe try, we can try to, get a swale into here and direct it towards the front.
Okay. So lots 43 and 44. I think they're up to the east of house number 140.
Okay.
So can you describe how the drainage is going to occur on the side of the house closest to 140, the house number 140?
Okay, so these two houses right here?
Yes.
Yep, so the water is coming down this way, it's gonna hit the swale, it's coming off of the 140 property onto ours and into this swale right in here, and it'll be directed towards the road and into the road system. It'll flow into that catch basin right there.
All right, so in a nutshell, you're preventing the runoff from those two dwelling units from going towards the house 140, and then also taking some of the back runoff from 140 into the development's drainage swale and getting it into the road drainage system.
Correct. Yep.
So let's play the what if game. What if the new owners of those two dwelling units decides that they're going to flatten out their backyard because they want to put a pool in and all of a sudden the swale isn't there? How are we going to rectify it? It's a loaded question, but.
Yeah, and the easy answer is we could add a easement.
Great, drainage easement on those two lots. All right. If you could get to the south of there towards the big basin on the south side of the project where the Turquoise land is and the Panos land is, or Panos.
Sure.
Okay, so for the most part, when you went over the swale along the back sections of what I call the new houses along Scotland Street, you did indicate, and I have to concur, or I do concur, sorry, that you're taking the water off of their back lots and getting it into the swale, which should improve any situations for drainage and groundwater for them. But I'm concerned about the slope of the basin in its proximity to the rear lot line of 162 Scotland Street, and that there will be runoff there, and that should be able to be offset enough from the property line to get a swale in to prevent anything from coming onto their property whatsoever. It's only a minor amount, but it's a point that we insisted at the beginning of this project that we weren't going to shed any water onto the abutting property. So that might take a little tweaking in there to get a swale between the bottom of the berm and their property line to divert it out into your own land rather than onto theirs. And of course, that affects the Panos slot as well, which is to the
next one down. So
yeah,
the sheet right here.
it's only a small amount on that lot, but it's still a point that we should probably look at.
Okay.
Now, if we can go north of Maple Street to lots 5 and 42.
So where John you living? In here?
No, it's a little bit, I think you're a little bit more north of that area.
Okay. This plan you're looking for?
Yeah, why don't we start there? All right, so where the cursor is right now that you have the hand pointing to, let's take a look at how the drainage would be affected on the back part of that house towards the house 124 and house 130, Scotland Street.
Okay. So we look at the drainage reports here. So there's a break line in here where water flows towards Scotland Street.
Okay,
And so in the future condition, we are, altering the amount of and where that high point is a little bit, but there's still water going towards that property line. It's a design point. Everything that's going towards Scotland Street. So,
all right, so I see it on your drainage area maps, but if we look at the actual contour elevation, so zero in a little bit on it.
yeah, it's a 71 this thing, and then the new 71 like comes through like that. Yep.
So I guess what you're trying to say, so that everybody understands, is that there's runoff that goes from that 71 contour, and if you can show where it is on, yeah, right there. There's already stormwater from the existing field conditions running onto that property.
Yep. This is another 71 right here. So right in between is a ridge line, which water either flows this way or this way.
Right.
So what we're doing is, while some of the lawn areas may still drain in those directions, we created roof drain collection systems to collect the roof drains and get them into the drainage system. So the impervious area from the houses will be going into the drainage systems.
All right, so the question I have for you is, it appears that on the dwelling unit that's marked number 8,
This one?
you have is that a yard drain there? Or is that just a circle that
So that is a clean out,
clean out? Okay.
like at the end of that line.
So would it be prudent to put a yard drain in as part of the roof drain system? Just so that there isn't any kickback by any abutter saying that regardless of whether the contours that you show on your plan indicate a ridge and it drains towards Scotland Street, if they get water, they may have some issues, and maybe it's a good way to put it to bed at this point. So it's something to consider, because you don't have to decide tonight, but it's an area that I see as a potential problem for not only the neighbors, but for the development itself. And so that really is the same all the way from the access road to the far left of your drawing, all the way over to where we're discussing it. Each one of those has drainage that appears to head back towards Scotland Street, which the contours show it as such.
Yep.
But you're taking a construction site and asking to have people understand that you're matching what comes off of it as a farm field, and the water they're getting is no more than what was there when the field was there after you've got your houses going in. And I just think it could be a potential sticking point for everybody, and we might be able to cut it off at the pass if we deal with it now, but give it some thought.
Okay, yeah, and as you can see, the driveways are all set up to grade towards the road as well. So, we're trying to keep all the impervious into the system, but yeah, we can, talk about adding some area drains in the yards as well.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing, and I'm going to share a couple of things, and then we can then have you share again when somebody asks a question.
Okay.
All right, I hope everybody can see that. So what I am indicating on the plan, which is the same plans that we were looking at, but I've made some notations on it with a little yellow box with a cloud in it. These were the areas that I went out and witnessed the water table elevations so that we make sure that that we're dealing with proper groundwater, seasonal groundwater elevation. So you can see that it's test pit D34, where the groundwater was determined to be 72.2. And so that's right where that box is. And the elevation of the swale in that area is 72. So we're right at the groundwater elevation, or slightly above it, with the swale in this area here. But even if there is some water in it, it's going to take away some of the groundwater from some of the problem areas on the abutting property. So I just wanted to point out that it's an accurate determination, because it's very conservative. And also there's been some questions about the groundwater done by other engineers on the site. And I don't know who did this one here where my cursor is, but you'll notice that the groundwater here is at 70.0. And I've got it at 72.2. Naturally, the slope is higher here and it starts to go down. Whoa, I'm doing something here. It's going downhill this way, so that could explain why the groundwater table is a little lower in elevation. But I feel that it's pretty consistent when I try to interpolate from here to there. So I just want to take some of the concern that the abutters have and indicate that they're pretty accurate with the interpolation of the water tables for where the septic systems are going to go. The test pit D33, I have a groundwater elevation of 70.98, and that's at that box. And so 70.98 is pretty close to being 71. And so you can see the 71 in the swale here. So again, it's right at or near the seasonal high groundwater table, which will take away some of the groundwater at the back of the Scotland Street lots and divert it into the drain system on the north side of the property. So I just wanted to point that one out to let the abutters know that we are trying to have the most accurate information, number one, but number two, it would alleviate some of the groundwater issues in that area. Again, it's in a drainage easement, so these people aren't going to be able to fill these in, legally fill them in and stop the water from flowing. And so that's why it's in a drainage easement. They might be able to put a deck over it if the building inspector allows it, but they can't fill it in. All right, another thing I'm going to share is the consultant's report, if I can find it. Oh, before I do that, I'll just share with the abutters and the commission that these were the test pits that I witnessed on that day. So you can see, is it showing?
Yep.
All right, that I was there and I personally witnessed it. So this is the final review letter that came out from the consultant for the commission. It's their third and final peer review letter. What happened to it? Is it still there?
It's showing.
I see it.
All right, it doesn't show up on mine. Hold on for a second. I don't know why. There we go. What is happening here? It'd be good if I knew how to use this. So they go through the letter saying what they reviewed. They reviewed these following documents, and it's all things that were submitted. And these were their final comments that they wanted to address, and you can see that they have no further comments and so forth, but they did have some things that they wanted to point out, and I highlighted them. And the first one is the Conservation Commission may want to add a condition that the applicant provide a copy of the self-verification form for the file for the filling in of the floodplain. or I'm sorry, the ILSF. Next one is the addition of the area drain was recommended and is not a requirement. And that was in the area that I was honing in on, where there weren't any swales that would divert the water away. And they had recommended it, but they realized that it's not a requirement. And the commission may still want to have that. So we'll have to discuss that a little bit more. And then finally, Allen and Major recommends that an updated plan should be provided once the final details of the septic treatment fields are known. The plan should be reviewed by the commission's agent to determine if it can be permitted as an amendment, or does it require the filing of a new notice of intent. So we'll need to be looking at those septic plans once they get submitted and see if they have any effect on the approval of the commission, if the commission does approve it. So that's all I have at this point. Tim, if you want to open it back up to questions of the commission or to the abutters.
Okay, I did have one other question as we were looking at the plans. The foundations for these houses, are they slab foundations or a full basement?
Full basement.
Full basement, okay.
And
Any commissioners, any other questions?
Well, relative to that, Tim, I did notice a few of them are going to be really tight to the seasonal high groundwater table. And so the plans, when they go to submit building plans, they may vary those plans and bring it up a little bit, but I did notice that some of them are going to be right at or just slightly below the water table, and the developer doesn't want to build houses with wet basements, so he's probably going to raise it, and I just want to point that out. We have no jurisdiction over it, but it may add some pumps to the swales because they're going to want to get those basements dry, so I just want to bring that up. Mo, did you want to say something? Okay. All right, Tim.
All right, then I will open it up to any of the audience. Any questions?
Anybody want to raise their hand?
I just was one quick thing, John, if you could send me that final review letter. I don't think I got that.
Okay. Looks like Jamie wants to. All right, I've unmuted you, Jamie.
Thank you. I have one question first and then another one, but I'll let someone go in between me if you want to do that. I was looking at the elevations. So on our property, I could see lines for like 71. So our property is 140, and it went low to that 67, but it didn't say that it was a swale. And I know you mentioned that you might put a drainage easement on there, but it didn't look like an actual swale. And I was a little concerned because one of the gradation lines said it was 63. So are they backfilling in up to 70 or 73.8 from 63 and then digging out a slope down towards Maple? I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in reading these gradation plans.
Would it be easier for Greg to call it up, or do you want me to call it up, Greg?
I can do it.
Okay.
Okay, is this the area you're talking about?
Yeah, so see how there's like that little dotted line, and then in really, really light, it says like 63.87 or so. All those light
Okay.
dotted lines. I'm assuming those are all the current grades,
Yeah, so this right here, that 63.87 that you're seeing right there, that's the groundwater elevation for that test pit right there.
Okay, so
This-
that's groundwater. What's the elevation of the soil That's what I couldn't tell.
So right there, that's the label for this contour, this existing contour. It's the light colored and it's got the dash line. Follow it
Yeah.
down. That's 67 right here. So we're
Okay.
right next to the property line. We're intercepting that grade, and we're digging a little trench, swale
Okay.
right here, and then
And the
it follows
68
back
as
all the way
well.
around, and it ties in somewhere probably on the other side of this.
Okay, and that's the same thing with 68 as well. Like you're kind of
Picking it up right at the
digging that
property
out.
line, digging it down, and
taking it down
Yeah.
like about a foot or two. Okay.
Yep.
And then where that line says 70, is that where the basements are going to sit of those houses? That where it says right under that, like 4, there's a 70.
this one. Oh, right
Yes.
here.
Yeah. Is that their level of the,
Oh, that's the ground elevation between the two houses. So
Okay.
70, 69, 68, 67.
okay.
The grades drop off that way. This
and so-
FBF, that's finished basement floor.
Okay.
So that'd be set at 65.8. This one at 64.9.
Okay. And then, so you said you might think about putting in a drainage easement there so that they can't fill that in.
Bishop, we're okay with
That's
the
what-
plans?
That's what I wanted them to discuss about putting in so that nobody can fill that in on you.
Okay. And then you were talking about on the Maple Street, the right side, that the water was going to flow from the center to the right. So like towards the Mcgraths. But what about the water that's going to go to the left towards our property off the road?
So this whole section from here down all the way to here, that's all going to be pervious pavement. So any water that falls in that gets soaked into the ground, goes right through.
Okay.
And there's a whole profile of, and there's stone and everything else, and water that doesn't soak into the ground will get picked up by this under drain right here
Okay.
and into this drainage system and out.
All right. And then from
So we're
our
not shedding any more water like towards your driveway right here to this garage structure.
Okay. And so then from the edge of our property, and there's a stake, there's 33 feet for the town road, the Maple Street Road. There's a 33-foot easement. So I see that you have the 22 feet for the road.
Mhm.
But where I was getting confused, again, still, is that I can't tell the distance between our property line to the beginning of the road. Because you have 33 feet and nowhere does it say the width of the sidewalk. Do you see what I'm trying to say? And then there's a 7-foot private way. So if you or Bishop could just give us some clarification
Sure.
on.
This right here is your property line and the edge of the right of way.
Yeah.
That's existing. That's not being altered or changed.
So how many feet is between the road and that?
This shoulder right here. It's not a dimension on here, but I can see if I can get it real quick.
Because I think you said the sidewalk is on the right-hand side, so opposite us.
Yep.
Right.
This
And
is the
so
sidewalk right here.
how wide is the sidewalk?
4 feet minimum by ADA standards.
So 4 feet. So
That's 28,
we're at 26 because
26.
right.
Right.
So we still, and so that to me says you have 7 feet left over. Does that match up with your 7-foot private way or whatever you stated? Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's 7-foot wide private way.
Yep. Existing 33 feet wide. Yep. Yeah,
Do you have a cross section of that section of the roadway, Greg?
I don't know if it's particularly that section, but I can see if I can find.
Because it just looks like that road is going to be right on, the edge of the road is going to be right on our property line. And that you're going to have 7 feet of that 33-foot right away on the opposite side, where actually the road is currently. It's like you're shifting the road 7 feet to the left.
That's a typical section. I don't know if we have a separate one for Maple.
It might be a good add-on to the plan for the contractor to know exactly where to put things in that section.
Because again, we need to be able to evaluate, you know what I mean, the potential damage to our current trees. And I understand you guys probably hate the fact that we keep bringing up our trees, but they're a huge benefit for shade for solar when we're cooling our house. I mean, they're very big, mature trees that can't be easily replaced. And so if there's 7 feet of unused green on the right side of the 33-foot easement where the road currently is, we're just a little confused on why you would shift it left. That's all.
Well, it's until we took the 2 feet away on your side, it was centered on between the existing right of way and the 7-foot strip. It's typically, I mean, you put a road on the center line of the paved area matches up with the center line of the right of way. And we took that 2 feet away along the side here.
Yeah, I would disagree with that assessment just based on we got our property surveyed and we measured from the marker, you know what I mean, for the 33-foot easement. And if you came out to our yard, you'd see that the 7 feet on the far right side of that 33-foot easement is all dirt road currently.
So I think that
That's why we're a little confused.
having that cross-section, Greg, would probably provide Jamie with the data that she needs to evaluate that.
Okay. Yeah, and you can see the this dash line is the edge of the existing road and over here. So it looks like we're paving.
Is there a highlighter that you can use, or doesn't the?
Because you may show it on the plans, but in reality, I mean, I don't know how light it is out there, but I can we can take pictures and show you.
I'm sorry, what are you saying, Jamie, that the distance from your property line?
So we're asking, so it's hard because I can't point to it here, Bishop, but so you can see where it says match existing driveway apron?
Yes.
And see right around that line where it says CB 49? Sorry, if you could move up a little bit.
Can you move it down? Yeah.
Yeah, so CB 49, that's where our driveway ends currently.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
And so we're, which is over our property line, right? To match the current dirt road. To match the current dirt road.
The dirt road is this dotted line. Can you point to it, Greg?
Yeah, it comes right through here.
This is where the road is. Okay.
And then the other side, Greg. Show the other side there, in that same area.
There's this right here.
Okay. So explain to me, please, Jamie, what.
So when we measured our property line from, you see where it says the 69?
Yeah.
Over to like where I think almost probably, if you move up a little bit, sorry. If you move up a little bit.
Bring the, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, if you go to the edge of our property, sorry. So if I can just go to the edge of the, yes, there you go. So see where the edge of our property is to like where that little, right across from it where you have that little, I don't know, berm or whatever going into the driveway.
Right here.
Yeah. So we had measured that, you know, across for 33 feet. And we're just trying to figure out how much the distance between our property line and where the actual asphalt is going to be. Because it looked like the road had shifted onto where we have grass and close to the trees that are on our property line. Because you don't have our trees in front of our house on this map.
Yeah, like so this is part of the road, the edge of the existing
Gravel.
gravel road. So yeah, this would take away, if that's just grass right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all grass. So that's
That would be-
why we're trying to figure out how close to the trees you're
So-
going to be digging.
But Jamie, can you please, you seem to imply that there is a discrepancy between the plan and reality. Can you just?
Yeah. So if you're, I wish I had pictures, but if you're looking at this corner where that driveway is,
Yeah.
where there's like the metal stake
Yeah.
that they used for our property marker, right? There's a property marker there. Originally, on the original plans, your asphalt road went all the way up to our property line. And it would have shifted the road to the left. And so we're trying to figure out how much space now, how many feet is in between our property line and where the asphalt starts.
It looks like 7 feet, but we'll get you that cross section to be more specific than it looks.
Okay.
I just
Because
opened up my
that's-
CAD software and I measured it at 9 feet from the property line to the edge of the back of the berm. The berm
So
is shown
is
in this one.
all the way down?
I can check a couple spots, sure.
That 9 feet distance goes all the way down in their property?
I'll check a couple of spots right now.
Because really, I'm most worried about the trees. I'm just.
Well, certainly it looks like 9 feet. If that's 9 feet, Jamie.
If that's 9 feet, then we're good.
Yeah, it
And
looks-
on the other side of the driveway towards Scotland Street, I got a reading of 9.9 feet.
Okay. All right, then we're good. If you're telling me there's going to be 9.9 feet from my property line to the start of the actual pavement, then we're very, very happy.
well, that makes us happy too, Jamie, if you're happy.
All right, is there anybody else that wants to raise their hand?
I don't know how to mute me again.
I can take care of that. Tim? Are you still there?
I'm here.
Anybody else? Guess there's nobody else that has any questions?
And Patricia McCardle has her hand up.
How come I don't see it? Okay, I'm sorry, Patricia.
If that makes it easier, we'll stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you. So where's Patricia? Oh, there you are, Patricia. Thank you.
Hi, guys. So can we go to 158 Second Street and look back behind them? And I want to know if that land is going to be elevated. And I'm really curious to know how many bathrooms are going to be in those huge houses.
Did you get that, Greg?
Drainage.
I didn't get the number. I'm trying to.
A
152?
158?
Oh, 158. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Share again. Okay. So yeah, it looks like we got 149 feet from your house to the closest house right here. And let's see the grades. Once we're at 66 coming through here. And that's a 66 proposed right here. 67. So those houses aren't going to be that much higher than your yard, like a
Okay.
foot or
And
so.
then-
The foundation's going to be a little bit higher, but you know the grade around it's going to be.
So there, I looked at it. And it looks like it's 27 square feet, 2,700 square feet. Is that correct? That's a huge house. So I need to know how many bathrooms are going to be in that house.
2.5
And
bathrooms.
these houses,
Yeah.
it's
2.5 bathrooms.
similar to the size of your house, I guess, the footprint.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, Bishop, how many bathrooms?
3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms, probably
Alright.
2 baths.
Okay.
And all of those units in that section, and you could probably refer to one of your other drawings, are all going over to the septic mound out in the south part of the property. So there's no septic systems in this area, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So then, I noticed that there is a lot of landscape in front of the houses. What about, is there going to be any privacy for us? I know I've brought this up a few times, a fence, bushes, anything, or am I going to be looking at this huge house right behind my house? Houses.
No, there is no privacy.
Okay. All right.
And you are bringing in water that can be made available for all of those houses in the future?
That is correct.
You are?
This is the water line
What
right here.
changed your mind, Bishop?
Pardon me?
Oh, you're bringing water to those houses, or what about ours? No?
But this line back here is for your houses. See these
Look at it.
proposed water service stub right here, one right here.
Oh, wow.
Here.
Thank you, Bishop. What changed your mind?
Actually, nothing changed my mind. That's always been the plan from day one.
No, it wasn't. We got in a huge fight about this last time. You said you weren't going to.
Well, okay.
So thank you.
Let's not get in a fight this time.
All right.
I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover.
All right. That's all.
Any other hands coming up that I'm missing?
The penthouses.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the drainage in the backyards, but I now have another concern about the drainage in the front yards. We talked about putting Cape Cod berms in front of the Mcgrath property to push the water down our way. We right now have no drainage in our front yards, and when it rains, the water basically pools in all of our front yards. So I think this is going to aggravate our problem even more. Is there any thought about drainage in the front for us?
So what we're doing with Maple Street and making this impervious, pervious pavement, where the pavement's pretty much like a sponge, that's reducing the amount of water that's coming from this property out to Scotland Street. And then, you know, this is just this, oh, sorry, I'm not even sharing. I'm doing a show for myself here. Okay, hold on. Okay. So this section of Maple Street, and I think, you know, the way it currently goes right now, it looks like it goes onto the Mcgrath property, like just overland flow. So by putting the berm in here and making this pervious pavement, so the pavement itself is kind of like a sponge, is going to take a lot of water off of not only the Mcgrath property, but it'll take some water off of what's going on in Scotland Street currently. We put this berm in here before we came up with the pervious pavement solution to also kind of keep water moving along. But, you know, since we're taking care of what's happening on our property, what's hitting Scotland Street currently isn't going to change other than what we can control and not put on to Scotland Street. So
They're putting water, he's adding stubs. He's putting water stubs right in the backyard. So we can just connect the water.
So
We don't have to connect it to the whole, from the street down. It won't cost that much money.
So as far as what's going on,
Who's unmuted here?
Patricia, I believe.
Because you weren't leaving me alone.
So yeah, as in the front here, everything that falls on Scotland Street, we don't own it. We're not making any changes to what's going on out front here. That's, all your property is. We can't just go in and start changing things. But what we're doing is reducing what we can, which is from Maple Street, actually Town Road, and keeping that water off of Scotland. So it might help a little bit, but I don't think it's going to totally solve your issue on the front yards. It owns a very flat road through here, and it's until it gets past your house, it doesn't really go down and into the wetland area.
So correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a country swale along the edge of Scotland Street that the town uses for drainage?
On this side?
Yeah, in that area where you're showing those contours.
Yeah, we get road contours through here.
I'm pretty sure there's a country swale along the side of a lot of those houses in that area.
Right in here. And
yeah, but that's something we can take a look at.
Okay. There is something there. Nobody keeps up with it. It's overgrown with weeds. Water doesn't get through. It just sits. It pools. Our builder actually came back to try to help alleviate our situation and put drainage in, but it's still just pools there.
Yeah, if it's in the town layout, the highway department has to maintain it.
Okay.
They don't like to hear that, and but as the stormwater management plan for the towns develops a little bit more leg to it, they'll have to do their own maintenance on them.
All right, I have another issue. I'm extremely concerned about the water. As you know, you've heard this over and over again. I'm the last house, I'm in a flood zone, and we have water issues. And I feel like all of the water is being pushed this way from the development. We're gonna have the leaching field behind us, and I know this is not your problem, but we also have that big massive building in Bridgewater now, which seems to be changing the water around here. I am extremely concerned that my house is gonna be on an island, surrounded by water. I know you're putting in the swales, which is going to help alleviate the water in our yard. And I hope, honest to God, that takes care of our problem or helps alleviate our problem. If it does not, and I have severe water issues after this project is in, construction's done, houses are occupied, and everybody walks away, and I have water issues, who's on the hook for that? Right now, we have corrected our problems and we haven't had an issue since, but I'm extremely concerned about the amount of water that's being pushed towards my property. And I want to know who's going to help me out if I have an issue. Is it the town? Is it the state? Is it Mr. Hashim? Who's going to help me?
So who wants to answer that question?
I will. Nobody's on the hook. What is on the hook is regulations and rules that have been set throughout many years. That the state is behind, that many smart people are behind, that we are required to comply with, and we will comply with. And every single case that I've been involved with, those rules and regulations and stormwater management and best practices, that stuff really do work. And in every single case that I've worked in, and I know there's a lot of doubters out there, but I'm happy to give you many examples. In every single case, it actually reduced the water problem. I mean, think of it logically. Now you're giving way for water that used to be sitting and seeping into the ground and raising the water table. Now you're giving it an organized, channeled way to go on its merry way without having to seep into the ground. some of it will continue to seep like it was before, okay? But it's not gonna be any worse than what you have now. That's the answer to the question.
The other thing that I might add is that we are going to require as-builts of everything that they do. And if they don't comply with the design and it's certified that, it'll have to be certified that it is in compliance with the design, we won't give them a certificate of compliance on it.
Okay.
So as long as the design passed muster with the review consultant engineer that the commission hired, and the developer hired a professional engineer to design it, we have to assume at this point that it's going to be built the way it's designed, and the commission will have the last review of it by looking at the as-built plans and either approving them or making them correct it until it is according to the design. But other than that, I don't think the town can do much other than, those things that are mentioned.
Okay. All right, last question. The drainage basin, I'm assuming is always going to have standing water in it. And I'm wondering what we do about mosquito control for that.
So it is designed as a wet basin, so yeah, it'll have water in it. It's designed to intercept groundwater so that it can treat nutrients and everything that come off and contaminants that come off of the pavement. So, I mean, as far as mosquitoes, I don't know if the wet basin is going to be any better or worse than all the wetlands that surround it as far as contributing to that issue. Where it's a basin, I don't know if anybody would stop you if you threw mosquito dunks in it to try and control out of that basin, or maybe that becomes part of the landscapers' work, whether for the homeowners association when they mow and maintain these things. But yeah.
Right now, the Plymouth County Mosquito Control sprays out there annually, so I'm assuming that's going to stop once the land is occupied.
Well, the neighbors could do the same thing, call in like everybody else can, and try to ask for the mosquito control to come out and spray.
Okay.
All right, it looks like Brian Sylvester has a question. Do you, if you can, I'll unmute you, Brian, if you want to ask the question. Can you hear me? All right, so Brian Sylvester had a question. He's one of the neighbors, of course, and he has a question about the septic plans. And I don't know why we can't hear him, but he's asked me a couple of times about the discrepancy of the septic, the test pit data that's in the Board of Health office. And have you submitted your official forms to the Board of Health so that the abutters can review those test pits? Because as far as Brian is concerned, they don't have official copies there. I hope I've got that straight. So he indicated in the chat to me that I just need to clarify, is there going, oh, this is from, I'm sorry, this is from Patricia. She needs to know if there's going to be access to town water directly behind their houses. So why don't we start with that one first?
I'm not sure what is meant by access water. Yeah, the town water pipe will be on the property line in the back of her, on all those houses in, off Scotland Street on the side of, on the south side of Maple Street. If that's, I don't know that if that answers the question or not.
I'll unmute you, Patricia.
Yeah, so it's this pipe right here that we're proposing to put in.
Okay, I just need to definitely make sure that, do we have to pay for that? The town water behind our house?
No, the town water behind your house, you don't pay for it, no. If you want to connect to it from your house to that pipe, from your house to the common pipe in the back, yes, you'd have to pay for it.
So you'd have to have
On your property.
plumber install a line through the backyard to connect in and tap into it. So a service line, basically.
Okay, so Brian Sylvester had a question on, and we kind of covered a little bit of it. Can you show on your overall phase mapping which houses, which dwelling units are going to go to the common septic system to the south, the shared systems in the middle section of the property, and the common septic system on the north side?
Okay. Share again. Okay, so all these properties here, including this one and the two off the sheet right here that are on that cul-de-sac.
So behind the cruise, I don't know what house number it is, Scotland Street, 124.
Yep. See, this is a sewer line right here into an easement out here and all along here. And each one of these houses would connect in with service lines up to there, into this, the tank system here and the pumps, and up to the knoll. Let's see. So these are the last two houses that connect into that. That's the line right there. All these are the septic systems, primary reserves. So we have test pits for these areas, and we have the primary reserve septic areas laid out. So these are all individual systems.
So that's from Millbury all the way down to approximately, who's the abutter on the northerly part of that section?
Well, let's keep
So from Millbury at 116 to
more. So again, these are all going to have their own individual septics on the lots, all the way down to where the water loop is going to go.
so approximately 84 Scotland Street.
Yep. And then starting with these two, and around here, all these are going to go to this system in here.
So while you're there, Greg, the groundwater elevation looks as if it's 62.2 on one of those test pits.
Yep.
So let's just say 62.5, let's say.
Okay.
And the existing ground elevation is
65?
$65, did you say?
Yep, there's a 65 going right through here.
Okay.
It's probably a 64, I would say, right there. I'm just looking for the label.
So it's between 2 and 3 feet, the water table.
Correct. Oh, that's 66, so this is a little bit higher.
Okay, and then so the question that came up is, does the Board of Health have the certified soil evaluators reports in their office at this time?
I honestly do not know the answer to that question, but I will see to it that if they do not, that they do get it with all the soil logs and the forms filled out. But I mean, everybody has records, but the formal forms will be filed with the Board of Health.
Yeah, all the ones that were witnessed for the septic, you know, the health agent was there during the soil testing with Outback, correct, Fisher?
Correct.
So the question is that according to the DEP regulations, there's a time frame that those official forms have to be turned into the Board of Health, because the Board of Health record is the agent's copy, and it's not the official copy. It's the certified soil evaluators copy that's the official one, and that's the ones that the abutters really need to be able to look at.
Sure. We'll make sure that they get them. I don't know. Is it a fact that the Board of Health doesn't have them?
That's what I've heard. Now, I haven't looked into it myself, but that's what I've heard.
I'll make sure that the Board of Health has them.
All right. Any other questions? If you, anybody raise their hand, chat? Aha, Jamie again, I'll unmute you.
Looks like Caitlin Mcgrath also has her hand up on the, if you look at the.
Yes, I see that, yep.
Okay.
Just one question. So are we going to see revisions to the plans before you do a final approval, do a final vote for approval, you know, with the proposed drainage? I just kind of want to understand next steps.
So the commission's going to have to come up with some of their own concerns and have the design engineer address them. And you heard some of mine, and so the commission will have some of theirs as well. And yes, the final plans will have to be revised, and everybody will have a chance to see them. All right, Caitlin.
Yeah, so I do believe John mentioned this earlier. So with the house that's going to be behind 152 Scotland, the drainage is taken care of in the front of that house and the back of the house. So my concern is what's going to come onto our property if you're looking at that new house to the east of that.
So I think that's where I pointed out a little earlier that we need to have those grades changed in there, Greg, so that they are definitely directed towards the swale that runs along the back of the Scotland Street, the new house is along Scotland Street.
The first house on Maple Street to the right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then my other question is, as far as the sidewalk, are they going to be at the same level as my backyard? Are they higher? How's that going to work?
I'm sorry, again, I didn't catch it.
I didn't hear the question.
Are the sidewalks going to be the same level as the grass level, or are they going to be higher?
It's going to be, let me take a look. It'll be a little bit higher, and it'll slope towards the road. That's the way the.
So we're not going to have any drainage in our yard from that, correct?
No, there's going to be on the edge of the road is going to be a curb to keep water from going out that way as well. And the sidewalk with the Cape Cod berm is usually about 3-4 inches higher than the edge of the road. And the sidewalk itself drains towards the pavement and the road as well. So yeah,
Okay.
it's meant to block it off from getting onto 152. That's your home, I assume?
Yeah, it is. And then in the front is the burn. Is that what you said?
Yep. Let's share real quick. So yeah, this right here would be an extension of the Cape Cod berm. It's like a low curb
Okay.
right around the front, and that would also keep water just kind of flowing along Scotland and keep it moving.
Okay.
Is this an area, a problem area for you right now?
The whole property is a problem area.
Okay.
Any other hands? Is that you, Jamie? No? Okay. It's all yours, Tim. Whoop, sorry.
All right. Any other questions? If hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to continue. Do we want to go to the May 19th or June 2nd meeting?
Greg?
I assume Bishop would want to go for May 19th.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, there are a few comments that we can take care of pretty quickly.
Okay.
So the governor has extended it to at least the 18th, and we meet on the 19th. And then the next meeting after that is, I think you said the 2nd.
June 2nd, yep.
It might be possible that we could, instead of having to do this remotely, be able to do it inside of a meeting room, as long as we maintain whatever requirements are required of us, and do it safely, so that everybody has a feeling like they have a chance to see the plans, ask some last minute questions, whatever. Just a thought.
The problem with that, John, is we will not know whether we are able to do that or not until the 18th, which is a day before. In case he extends it further, it may be problematic. And even from what I heard the governor yesterday on the radio, even if he opens it up, he's going to open it up very slowly. He may still, I don't know if he will allow those meetings, like more than 10 people to gather. So it might be wise to hold it like we held it now, and we're happy to deliver to anybody electronically the plans that we are presenting now. We're happy to deliver to email them if they share with you. If you give us anybody's emails that want copies of those plans, we're happy to email it to them so they can in a PDF format, so they can zoom in and out at any section of the plan they want. And then we can I think this way it's secure, it's guaranteed that everybody knows what's happening, and the members of the public know, and rather than question the last day, or are we allowed to meet or are we not allowed to meet?
So what date are we using then?
The 19th, isn't that the next meeting?
If we're not ready, we just continue again. You're muted again? I'm sorry. How's that happen?
That's okay. So we'll plan for the 19th, and if we have to, we'll continue it beyond that.
So you need a motion for the continue to the 19th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded for May 19th. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, and if, would it be possible to do another one of these types of meetings? If
Well, that's what we would plan to do, unless for some reason it's relaxed and we can go in with masks and social distancing. But we'll know better.
I'm sorry, Greg, are you clear on what is needed? All the comments? Do you have a list of them from John?
Yep, I haven't taken it.
I'm going to be putting together a written thing for him so that he can go item by item.
Okay, appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and bearing with us in this new format. It's a lot better than the Google Meet that we had the last time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, next order of business is
All right, the next thing we have is
South
map
Street.
60, lot 22 South Street. And do they have anything to present, or is this going to be continued?
I will show you an email that we got last minute today. So there it is. Can you read it?
Coming up. There it is.
Yep, there it is. It came up.
Zoo. This is the issue where we were considering having him refile.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a situation where, because of the length of time it's been since they filed it, that we want the applicant to re-notify abutters and let them know that we're continuing with the hearing because of the time frame. And so that was almost a year ago.
Yep. He thought that was too onerous, though.
No, he hasn't had a problem with that, but apparently he's, according to this email, he's blaming the probate system, holding things up in the estate, and then also COVID-19.
Well, I think in favor of the abutters, I'd be in favor of having him refile.
So one of the options could be to deny the project without prejudice, which means he could refile without having to pay all the fees again, but he'd have to go through the same process of public hearing, ad, and notifying abutters. His argument the last time we discussed this was that he felt that the owner of the property, or the person who's handling the probate, could say that they no longer have standing on this, and he would have wasted all of his engineering services and his clients paying for it without any standing in it anymore. So that's why he was asking us not to deny it without prejudice the last time he was in, and I think it was around the holidays when he was coming in on that one.
I don't recall if there were any issues that the abutters would be particularly, needing to know. Is there any issues that would affect them a lot?
Well, yes, I think there are, and so that's why they need to be part of this. And quite frankly, I have some issues with the project anyway, the way it's laid out, and some of the positioning of the septic system, for example, that kind of thing.
Right.
So ultimately, even after all these delays, it may be a project that I don't feel should be built the way it's proposed, at least at this point.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of issues with it, and so that we really need to keep the abutters appraised of what we're doing. However, I feel kind of bad for the engineer and his client, because if they don't have, wait a minute, why don't we give them a continuance to the next meeting, provided, and we won't close it at the next meeting, provided they have some contract with the representative of the estate, guaranteeing them that they aren't going to be left out in the wind on this. I mean, I can't see why the businessman can't get some assurance. Like if you have a P&S, you're held to a certain standard. If you're signing a contract with someone, you're held to a certain standard.
Yeah.
Why don't we condition the continuance to the next meeting with the provision that he get himself a guaranteed contract that they're not being dumped on this because we closed the hearing.
Sure.
I don't know if that's possible. I don't know what the exact wording is, but I could probably figure it out if I gave it some thought. I know that nothing can be done in real estate unless it's in writing. So he will have to try to get some contract from either his client to the probate representative, or from Azu to the probate representative, that he's not going to be left high and dry on this if we were to deny it without prejudice. So that's my recommendation. I can see his point, but I also feel that we can't just let this thing go on forever without doing something.
No, he wants to go till August by the looks of things. So what about the other members? Any comments?
So Tim is going to have to abstain on this, and so it's
And
just
Ryan's
between.
muted. Undo Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ryan. There you are.
Any comments from you?
There we go.
Okay. No, I heard everything, but that seems like a good thing to get something like, a lack of a better term, a guarantee for the next.
Yeah, let's put the burden on them to protect themselves. It's not up to us to protect them. I mean, we can be sympathetic about certain things, but let's put the burden on them to protect themselves. And if they can't do it, then there's nothing else that we can do for them.
Yeah.
So I don't advocate going to August. I advocate going to the next meeting and having them get some type of clarification as to that they're not going to be left out of the ability to go forward with this.
So entertain a motion to go to May 19th with some type of document.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So
Okay,
moved.
and with Tim
I'm
abstaining.
abstaining.
All right, next is 400 Manley Street.
And they've asked to be continued. Did they pick a date? Next meeting, John?
Oh, boy, yes, they did. And let's not, I should have had that email. So the next meeting's the 19th. Let's go to June 2nd.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue to June 2nd.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
He may have asked for something different, but I can't see how we're going to get the 53Gs report back by Monday.
To be able to get it done for the 19th, yeah.
Yeah, and then have him review the changes. So I'll work that out with him.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is 586 Manley Street. And Greg was the engineer and he's gone. So I'm going to see if I can invite him back into the meeting. Are you seeing any of this?
No.
No.
Okay.
Just a blank Benjamin Smith.
All right, I've just sent him off an email saying that we need him to come in for that Manley Street project. So if we don't hear from him,
dog.
I'm back.
All right, so let's table that and let him try to respond to that email I just sent him. So we'll go to 363 South Elm Street. So we have a certificate of compliance request for this lot on South Elm Street, number 363. It was one of the Alexander parcels. And the house is done. They had proposed a pool and a shed, and they didn't put either one of those two in. So that's not a major problem, actually. And the other issue is that this culvert was more in the town layout. However, the way the grading is on the natural grading on the roadway and the lots dictates that the swale is here and goes underneath the driveway on the land itself. So I don't see that as an issue either. So I'm recommending approval of the certificate of compliance and hold the bond until he puts some riprap on the entrance part of that swale in this area here. And if you'd like, I can show you where it is on the South Elm Street if it's necessary.
No,
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe a locus.
Tim's muted. Thanks.
Tim's muted again?
yes.
Yep.
All right. Boy, how does that happen, Tim?
He's still muted. There he goes.
There we go. John, my only question on those lots, and maybe I just can't see them, but I haven't seen the wetland markers.
Okay, on that one particularly, the wetland markers are in. I did check that, and I got pictures of them.
Okay.
So they are in, and they show on the on that plan.
Okay, I knew they were on the plan, I just wasn't sure whether they were really there or not, but if you've checked it and they're there, then.
Yep.
Then I don't have a problem. Anybody else entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance with a bond?
Mo will.
I'll second it.
Moving said, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved?
That was without a bond?
Yes.
Yes.
And what I'll do is I'll hold on to the certificate and not give it to them until I see the riprap in that thing. Okay, good. Maple Street. We have a letter into the commission where they're going to put the Bertarelli parcel on Maple Street out of 61A. So it's this parcel here. And the way to describe it is this is the landscaping business there on Pleasant Street. Place Masonry is on the next slide, if I can bring up the next slide. So here's Place Masonry. Here's the landscaping place, the self-storage facility. It's a grass hayfield at this point, and they're putting it, notice that they're taking out a 61A. So it would be wonderful, since all around that land is fish and game, and it's all protected all around it. Be wonderful to purchase it, but it's for over $1 million, and I don't think we can afford that, or the town can, especially now with the way things are. So unfortunately, with sadness, I would recommend that we not ask the town to exercise their first right of refusal.
How big is the parcel, John? Roughly?
Let's see if I can figure that out.
Well, you don't have to go to too much trouble.
So by memory, it's at like 10 or 15 acres of land.
Okay. All right. That's a commercial area though, isn't it? Pretty much.
I think it is industrial, even though it's in the Hockomock Swamp ACEC. I think it is industrial.
Okay.
Too bad the state fish and game didn't have a little extra money to throw at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would throw 50 cents on the dollar.
All right, I'll entertain a motion not to exercise our right.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Next, we have 6971 Sunset Ave project change.
All right, so I'll start with 69. So this is the proposed change. It's now a proposed, I'm sorry, this is what we approved. It's a 3-bedroom dwelling with a septic system out here in this area. I'm going to switch over to this is the one that they're now proposing. And what they've done is they've made it a 4-bedroom house, same location, same grading and everything, except for now they have 4 septic lines instead of the 3 to compensate for the additional bedroom. They've moved it back a little bit, so that's, instead of putting the line here, they added it here, so they're farther away from the wetlands. Here's the conservation easement, and it's at the 50-foot buffer, so it's more than 50 feet away from the wetlands, and I don't see any impact, so I would recommend for number 69 to be a minor project change. Whoop.
All right,
I don't have any
any
questions.
questions?
No.
All right. Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to call it a minor project change.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right, and then for
71, John?
71. The first slide is what they originally proposed. So a 3-bedroom house with the septic system, again, more than 50 feet away. This is the conservation easement along the 50-foot buffer line. And what they are now proposing is a 4-bedroom house. So now it's 4 bedrooms. Whoop, I gave you 69, sorry, hold on. Looks familiar. So now it's a 4-bedroom house. The house is a little bit different, primarily the same footprint, and I'll flip back if you'd like me to. but the system is a little bit larger now to accommodate the extra bedroom. It's again more than, here's the conservation easements. It's well over the 50 feet away. And I really don't see any impact. Even though the house shape is a little different, it's about the same footprint. So I'd recommend approving it as a minor change.
All right, any questions?
Mm-mm.
Hearing none, then I'll entertain a motion to call it a minor project change. to 71 Sunset.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, then last on the agenda is a invoice that we can put in for the subscription to the Zoom meeting platform. And if everybody was fairly well pleased with it, it should be easily approved. But if you didn't like what we were doing, you might not want to approve it. So here it is. It's for 1 month, it's $14.99. With tax, it comes out to be $15.93. And we can unsubscribe at any point down the road when we find it's necessary to do so. So we're not locked into a year's contract. There is a savings if you do, but I don't see the point in it if we're not going to need it for a lot of months. So we may need it for a couple of months, but not for the whole year.
No, I
How
thought
many
it went
people?
good.
How many people can we put on that one?
100.
Oh, God.
Wow.
We had, oh, okay. We had one
I
person
hope we don't have to
tonight.
fill it up.
We didn't see, the one lady tonight we didn't see. Is that because she only came in by phone or?
Yes, you can sign up by phone or computer, and she probably elected to go by phone.
Okay. Yeah.
I think,
worked
John, they
well.
can also, they can shut their screen off, so all you see is just a blank.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
She might have disabled the camera. Of course, her computer might not have had a camera.
Like Ben did tonight.
Yeah. So I thought it went well, so
I do too.
then I'll
Well,
entertain a motion to,
I think
I'll
one of
entertain a
the
motion to
best
allow me
things,
to approve the slip.
I'll make a motion that we let Tim approve the invoice.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So the only other item, other than everybody, wishing everybody to stay well and so forth, is to adjourn.
All right. Is anyone working at the town hall?
So right now it's what they call the essential staff, which is the town administrator, Board of Health agent, building commissioner. The treasurer's office has at least 2 people there at all times, the treasurer and one of the office people, the town clerk, and I believe that's it. Oh, and then of course DPW is on, but at the town hall itself, those are the only people that go in on a daily basis. I go in almost every day to check the mail and scan some stuff and work primarily from home. Kitty's doing the same thing. I don't know too much about the other departments or what they're doing. I know the assistant town administrator is working from home, and the confidential secretary to the Board of Selectmen is also, and they keep pretty close tabs of what at least I'm doing, because they communicate with me almost every day. So unless I tell them I'm taking it as a personal day or a vacation day, they expect me to be available to answer their questions. We get the phone calls forwarded to my email so that I can respond to them. So for other than not being able to talk to people directly face to face, they can contact me and we can do the Zoom meeting. For example, I held a Zoom meeting with one of the engineers, and it works pretty darn good.
Yeah.
We might be able to save on the heating bills next year if we continue this.
You're right. And it can be from anywhere in the world.
Yes.
All righty. All right. Well then, stay safe.
All right, so we need that motion, sorry.
I'll make a motion to close.
I'll second it.
Who's that? All in favor? So boom.
Aye.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you.
Stay well.
Thank you.
Yeah, same to you.